successful street, touching them first meals. All my life, been grinding all my life. Sacrifice, hustle paid the price. Want a slice, got to roll the dice. That's why all my life, I've been grinding all my life. Look, all my life.
KBLA Talk 1580. I'd say both of the people in the studio right now pretty much fit the bill of that Nipsey Hussle song.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Happy to welcome in the Los Angeles City Council member representing the 8th District of Los Angeles. He is a longtime community organizer, started out with the Community Coalition, has been representing his district, but now has been sworn in as the president of the Los Angeles City Council, second African-American ever to be in that position. Congratulations and good morning, council member.
Thank you so much, and good morning to you and the KBLA family. It's good to be here in week one.
Yeah, Council President Marqueece Harris-Dawson.
As leadership of the council.
I guess we can't say you've changed. You got elevated and you don't come see us at KBLA
Yeah,
anymore.
no, I wasn't going to let them say that. I was like, schedule that in advance because I know they'll be calling in on me.
So this is a huge deal. When you become City Council President, you are over the interest of the entire city.
That's right. That's right. It's a citywide position, and, your role is really to facilitate the work of the 14 other members of the council to make sure that they can do their best work, make sure their issues come to the fore, their issues get a hearing, and the city makes decisions. It's also, there's a relationship with the mayor. The mayor really carries out, is the executive of the city and really carries out what the policies of the city are. And obviously the mayor participates in making policies, but the council, it is really the council vote that creates policy for the city.
So, this is one of those giant jobs, big black jobs. So because you still have to represent your district.
That's right.
The 8th District.
That's right.
Which is, as I understand it, where most of the black people in LA are.
Yeah, I think, I don't know if most, but a bunch of us.
A lot of us are in the 8th. So you have to do that, but you also have to represent the entire city.
You have to represent the entire city, and you have to facilitate the council. So the council is really, all of us are in groups or organizations. Somebody has to take responsibility for making sure the group functions, right? So when the meetings are, what the agenda is, what the follow-up from the last agenda is, so on and so forth. And that really is the role of the president. One of the things that's tough about LA, though, you get this job of council president. They don't give you any money to hire more people or to have more district offices. So it really calls on a lot of energy and motivation from your team.
Wow. Go team.
Yeah, there you go. No, you got to have, if you don't have the team, you're dead in the water.
Yeah. You have a lot, you have some, not a lot, but you have some folks that you've had with you for many, many years.
I have folks that have been with me from day one. I pride myself on that, on building a good team. We've had folks that have been with us from day one. I have folks that I, work with from before I was on the council. And then, with the mayor's team, mayor's team also has people that we go back with decades. And even some of the other council offices, because, we now there are more activists on the council. So, the activist community is relatively small, so we tend to know each other. And so, we got a crew inside the house. So I think we have the forces to get it done.
The city council, when you become city council president, do you keep all your committees or, because I
don't have any committee. You only have one committee as council president.
Okay.
And that is the rules committee, which you're the chair of, which that determines the policy of the council. And how the council is going to run and all like that. And so that's the rules committee. It usually is made up of the leadership of the council. All the other committees, the role of the president, which is key, assigns the chair and members to each committee.
Right. And which is one of the things that makes council president a very powerful position.
That's right.
You have the discretion to put people on committees or not.
Right.
And
or take them off.
And some committees are much more influential than others.
Right. Some committees are much more influential. There's also what members are interested in. If you come into council and say, I really want to work on the environment, and you can't get the council president to put you on the environment committee, then you're going to have a tough time. It doesn't mean it's impossible, but it means it's tough. And so that's probably the key role of the council president.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you why you wanted the job. Obviously it's prestigious, but it is a big job, and it's a heavy lift, especially right now.
Well, I think that there's a couple reasons. One is the being on the council and watching what has happened and watching what this council has been through during the time I've been there. I mean, it's like 3-4 people, I've seen the inside of a prison or certainly a courtroom. We had the leaked audio and a host of other things. All the while, we have this homelessness crisis, spiraling out of control. So you watch what happens there. So I think I bring the skills to the job. But the other thing is the moment that the city's in now, you really need the council and the mayor as much as possible to be working together. And I think I'm in a position to facilitate that with the council, given, my relationship with Mayor Bass.
I mean, I think I told you this when I congratulated you on your ascension. For me, kind of surreal when I first came to L.A., Community Coalition and your work there was one of the first things that drew my attention, got involved. And now, a few decades later, you are the city council president, and Karen Bass is the mayor. She was the executive director of that organization and you are a youth organizer, and then you became the executive director and then a council member, and now you guys are in the position to work together to better the city.
Yeah, it's quite humbling to think about, where we've been. Also, but it's also anchoring, right? And so I think we know the streets, we know the people, we've been through the ringer, and we've been through the ringer together. So I think it puts us in a position to do really, really good work. I mean, we've seen, the toughest of what this city has to offer. We've also seen the possibility that this city has. And so I think it puts us in a good position. But, it does make sense that that we are in leadership at this moment precisely because of what you say. People have been watching us. So people know us. They know what we do. They know who we are. There are people who can bear witness to our work and how we respond under pressure.
Some critics have said, well, maybe you and the mayor are too close. Maybe she won't get the scrutiny from the council that she should get.
Well, there are plenty of people on the council that give her plenty of scrutiny, so I don't think that there's going to be a lack of that. The one thing the council, the one thing the council president can't do is stop people from talking. Not that I would if I could, but people who have something to, right? People who are on the council who have something to say at the mayor are not at all shy about it, both in public and in private, and so. I think that's fine. I think one of the great things about Karen and I count myself in this number is. There are people who know how to deal with controversy, deal with it, leave it there, and move on to the next thing. I've also seen situations where people have controversy and they can't work together on anything else going forward as long as that thing is there. And so that's a feature that we want to bring to the fore in the council. Because I've seen both in the city. I've seen people who could have a knockdown, drag-out fight and move on, and then I've seen people get stuck in their controversy.
Right, and we have to be, as progressives, we have to be pragmatic enough to get stuff done.
That's right. And I always tell people, look, there are no angels and no devils. We're all humans, and so all humans, we have some good days, and occasionally we have some bad days, and we got to figure out how to connect on the good days and help each other in the bad days.
Yeah, I don't know, council member. I think we got some devilish humans, but in any case, I think
like the way I like to say it is, there are people who are more likely to respond to the call of the darkness.
There you go. Well said. You brought up a bunch of things that probably we need to address.
Yeah.
And we'll do that when we come forward. But top of mind has to be houselessness, right? I mean, that has to be top of mind.
Of course. Top of mind has to be houselessness. There is, we finally, during the whole time I've been on the council, so this is my 9th year on the council, every year until this last year, the homelessness count went up. This last year, it went down by 10%. So what that tells us is we actually know how to reduce it.
In the city of LA.
In the city of LA, it went down 10%. The county was only 2%, but that's very telling that there was a difference between the city and the county because the city of LA is doing a lot more in homelessness than the rest of the county is doing. I would argue city of LA is only about a third of the county of LA, but we're doing about 80% of the work on homelessness. So we know what works. We know the investment that it takes. We know the actions that it takes to get it down. We just need more faster. And I think, with this council and the mayor, we can pursue that.
We will continue our conversation. Got so much to talk about.
Yes.
Council President Marqueece Harris-Dawson is in the building and on YouTube at KBLA Talk 1580.
Say the quiet part out loud. KBLA Talk 1580. Tabitha Smiley's new book, The Covenant with Black America, 20 years later, is now on sale everywhere. This classic text shot to #1 on the New York Times bestsellers list almost 2 decades ago. If you have the original book, you will surely want to get this 20th anniversary edition with powerful new contributions from today's leading voices. This 20th anniversary edition presents a compelling blend of historical insights and contemporary urgency in this critical and unprecedented election year. Get your copy of The Covenant with Black America 20 years later today.
On your period, sudden gushes happen without warning. But now, you can say goodbye to stand-up gush fears thanks to Always Ultra Thins with rapid dry technology. It absorbs gushes 2 times faster than the leading store brand and gives you up to 100% leak-free protection. Hello, clean and comfortable with Always Fear No Gush.
To help combat climate change, LADWP is helping neighborhoods have better access to electric vehicles by awarding nearly $130 million in EV rebates to customers just like you. From big savings on used EVs to building new charging plazas, LADWP is charging ahead to help all Angelinos experience the benefits of EVs. Get rebates of up to $4,000 for a used EV and $1,750 for a charger. Learn more at ladwp.com/EV. That's ladwp.com/EV.
My friends swim no matter the season, but my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis can sometimes take me out of the moment. Now, thanks to Skyrizi and clear skin, count me in. With Skyrizi, Risankizumab Riza, a prescription-only 150 milligram injection for adults who are candidates for systemic or phototherapy. 3 out of 4 people achieve 90% clear skin at 4 months.
Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions and an increased risk of infections or a lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check for infection and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection or symptoms such as fever, sweats, chills, muscle aches, or cough, or if you plan to or recently received a vaccine.
Thanks to Skyrizi, there's nothing on my skin, and that means everything. Ask your doctor today about Skyrizi, the #1 dermatologist-prescribed biologic in psoriasis, and visit skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI to learn more.
You're invited to join KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress for a vice presidential debate watch party featuring Governor Tim Walz versus Senator J.D. Vance, Tuesday, October 1st at 6 p.m. immediately following the debate. Broadcast live here on KBLA Talk 1580. There will be a live panel discussion. Refreshments will be served and seating is limited. So RSVP right away at KBLA1580.com. That's KBLA1580.com. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your black. Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
1580. Okay. Ooh, we got a lot to talk about. So we're with Council President Marqueece Harris-Dawson. I don't know where you rank in, council presidents as far as, age, right, and tenure. But I do think it's nice that you're energetic and young because we got a lot on our plate right now.
We have a lot on our plate. I learned when I got sworn in, I'm the 27th person to be the council president. Okay. I am not by a long stretch of the imagination the youngest. The youngest was 27-year-old Alex Padilla.
That's right. I forgot about it, Senator Padilla. Yeah.
So,
bit of a tragedy.
So there's range, and I'm also not the first of African American because I came in with Herb Wesson, and really one thing I would note for the KBLA audience, it's so important when you're in a position. I was able to sit there and watch Herb do it, and always able to ask him questions like, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? Why'd you say this? Why'd you go this way? Why did you turn right when you could have turned left? And really learned how to navigate those situations and how to leverage power for the benefit of the city, but also the benefit of our folks. And so that, I just implore all of us, I try to do this whenever you're in a position like that. Keep the door open, keep your brain open, keep your heart open to people who are trying to figure it out.
Mm. Well, and there's a science to that. I love Willie Brown's book, Basic Brown, where he talks about wielding that power. Yeah. He's very unapologetic about
Yes,
it.
yes. It's in retirement. I feel like it flows. Your verbiage flows a little better.
But I mean, when you talk about everything we've been through as a city, and you look at what's going on in New York right now as we speak, the mayor of New York indicted, and I'm sure a whole bunch of people come down with him. It's probably not just the mayor, the aides and all kinds of folks. And ethics has been a conversation in our city.
Yep.
Still is a conversation.
Still remains a conversation.
What do you think should be done to ensure we don't?
So I think a couple things. I think, the cities, my predecessor, Paul Kokorian, put together some great measures that are going to be on the November ballot, take redistricting away from council members. One thing I will say about the council that hasn't been said, people will talk about the corruption of politicians being in charge of redistricting, and there's some of that. But mostly, it just brings out the worst in people. Like the
redistricting.
When you're drawing your own lines about the place you're going to represent, it just brings out the worst in folks. And
as we heard on that tape.
As we heard on the tape. Again, all those people I know, that was the worst I ever heard from any of them.
Yeah.
But they were in, you could hear the palpable fear they were under that this thing could go wrong for them, or what they perceived as wrong, really, really quickly. So I think that makes sense. But here's what I would say about the corruption stuff. I think we just need to get clear about what we want from our elected officials, and what the rules of the road are, and what really matters. So, I'll just tell you the report I heard on the radio on the way here, and I'll confess that I was listening to a station that wasn't KBLA. They were reporting on the story, and this is all I heard. I don't know anything of the story. I haven't read anything. They said, well, Mayor Adams is being indicted because he got upgrades on flights. And I'm like, well, as a voter, do I care about that?
Right.
Like, really? Like, and when did that become a rule? Like, as a voter, would I even know that that's a rule, that you can't take it? Now, I'm an elected official, so I know for a fact, like, if an airline calls me and offers me an upgrade, I have to say no. I know that. But do my constituents...
Even if it's based on your frequent flyer miles?
If it's based on your frequent flyer miles...
I wouldn't know that, but if a Turkish embassy calls you, if a Turkish official calls you and says, hey...
Yeah, if a Turkish official calls you, you want to get somebody else on the phone with you, you want to do a number of things. But, the reason why it struck me is I had a situation where I was late. My flight was leaving late, and I had to leave 3 hours later than I was supposed to. And I was going to get to New York in the middle of the night. And it just so happened when I got up to the desk, the person was a constituent. They were like, oh, my God, you're my councilman. And you've been waiting for 3 years. It's so terrible. 3 months, 3 hours. It's so terrible. I'm going to upgrade you to first class. Now, I know the rules. I had to say no. But if I had said yes, I don't know. I don't know that that's what makes government work better or worse. Is what flights people are on. So I just think, we need to be sober about these things and not put things into categories, because he's getting the same charge that Trump got for basically extorting a porn star, which is a very different thing and a different quality. Yeah. So, and in the same federal prosecuting district as well. So, I just think there needs to be some sobriety about these things and a hard look taken at them.
Talk to me a little bit more about this measure, the measure which is on the November ballot, which creates an independent redistricting commission.
Yes. So basically what it does for the first time since the founding of the city, it takes redistricting away from the city council members and the mayor and gives it to an independent body. The state of California already did this about 15 years ago. So it's basically a lottery. If you want to be a commissioner, you can apply. And the commission is set up in a way that it has to have a certain number of women. It has to have diversity. It has to have regional diversity. But once that committee is seated, they are the decider. And when they vote on a map, that's the final map. And, that involves a lot of risk for elected officials, for sure, because they could draw it where you don't even live in your district anymore. Yeah. Which means you got to move.
Right.
Or something you were working on, right? This is how scary it gets, right? All this work I've done on Destination Crenshaw, random people come along and decide, oh, that's not in the 8th district anymore. That's in the 11th district with Venice. I might have said some really bad things on a tape if somebody had suggested that. So that's why it's a big deal. But in the end, everybody will survive and the city will be better off.
So you support the measure?
I support the measure, yes.
To change redistricting. I know the state wanted it at some point, and there's been a lot of, I mean, you know, I was in the 8th district.
Yeah,
and
that's right.
Redistricting moved me to the 10th,
right.
even though I didn't move.
Right, exactly.
Same house.
And you know, that the neighborhoods around Lamert Park have gone back and forth 4 or 5 times in the last 30 years.
How do we know that passing this measure wouldn't make us more vulnerable to the kind of things we heard on that tape? I mean, I know you say that it mandates balance in race and gender and geography.
Well, what you won't have, look, like I said earlier, I don't believe in angels and devils. I just believe in humans, right? So humans are fallible and stuff can happen. But here's the difference. Like I just described to you, there could be a very logical argument to put what's now called Destination Crenshaw in another district. It wouldn't matter to me as the councilman. You would not get anywhere near that. So there's no way I can be objective, or should be objective, frankly, as the person who's representing the area.
Right.
So at least these people have a possibility of being objective. And they could say, hey, we know that's really important to Marqueece, but for the good of the city, we're going to make this other decision.
Right, and this would kick in 2032,
That's
the
right.
first election. So that means we have to make sure, you're the council president, but whoever's in charge of that body has to make sure there's outreach to our community, because I feel like a lot of these bodies tend to leave out us.
And I will tell you, one of the things that concerns me is, this, as of now, I think this could be changed and needs to be looked at. As of now, this is something you do on a volunteer basis. And the thing with our people is, our people have to use their hours for wage labor. Like, we have to work to make a living. So the idea that we're going to take off time to go do this, it limits who it's got. Basically, it limits it to retirees who have a pension. Right. And if you want to spend your retirement doing that, wonderful. But that's the challenge for our community, is making sure everybody who can do it and is interested in it actually files and applies.
Yeah, and knows about it. Speaking of Destination Crenshaw, are we on track with the project?
We're not on track. We're still, I stopped putting out dates where we're going to finish, because I talked to the construction people. They're like, well, what had happened was, and now it's going to be another 3 months and another 3 months. And so I expect that we're going to finish inside the this calendar year or top of the year next year. That's what we're on track to do. But, there are definitely bumps in the road with materials and the increasing cost of things. The average increase in construction projects for in the city is about 40%. So Destination Crenshaw was $100 million, give or take. So now it's like you got to come up with another $40 million to deal with the cost overruns and the cost of materials. Spending more on eggs and bacon is one thing. When somebody comes and says to you, you need $40 million more, it's an entirely different ballgame.
That's a whole different talk show. But the project itself, I feel like when it started, I don't remember it. Well, yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't remember hearing $100 million.
Oh yeah, no, it was $100. It was $100 million from day one, because I remember how scared I was. It's like, how are we going to raise that? And everybody kept telling me, you could totally do it. It's fine. It's easy. and I have to say, to my surprise, we ran up. We had in this building, in this studio, we had the groundbreaking for Destination Crenshaw, and we had already raised close to $50 million by that point.
Wow.
And so, we had the whole, 5-year construction plan where we could raise the other $50 million, which turned into really raising another $90 million. Because of,
Lord have mercy.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough out there, but it's, it's hard work, but it's worth it. And it's, when one of the reasons why we've been able to raise the money is when you tell people the vision and you show people the vision and you talk about the kind of future we can build with something like Destination as an anchor, people respond.
I mean, it's definitely going to be a tourist attraction. And I love that you pulled together Black Press.
Yes, that was
to
fun.
give us a little sneak peek of what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very much a base politician, as they say. So you go with the people that you started with.
Work with your base. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
No, it's a Black Press. I started the morning in a black church. Like we that's how we roll.
right. And it's not just when you're running for re-election that you
That's
go
right.
to Black church.
That's right. That's right. No, you gotta check in. You gotta check in.
Yeah. And I think as Black Press, it's important because the rumor mill is so vibrant right now with
That's
social
right.
media and everything
That's right.
else. When we can see something with our own eyes and touch it with our own hands, then we can tell the story a lot better.
Yeah, no, and thank you for hosting us. We went to Destination Crenshaw and we went over to Doolin's and just sat in the patio and chopped it up with press from a variety of sources. And so it's been really good. The other thing is I just don't like it when something happens and our folks have to find out from someplace else.
Yeah.
If our people listen to KBLA every morning, they ought to be able to find out on KBLA. Like they shouldn't have to go to another place to learn about it and to get firsthand information.
Much appreciated. We were talking with Council President Marqueece Harris-Dawson, and you're listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Officials say it's time to prepare now as Hurricane Helene is forecast to make landfall in Florida's Big Bend region later today as a Category 4 storm. Helene is expected to bring life-threatening storm surge, damaging winds and flooding to much of the Sunshine State and the southeastern U.S. Vice President Harris is set to make her first trip to the southern border since becoming the Democratic nominee for president. Harris will visit Douglas, Arizona on Friday as polling numbers show immigration and border security are weak points in her campaign. Some 300 people are out of a job at Disney Global and more cuts are expected. A spokesman said the layoffs were in the name of efficiency. All of the layoffs announced this week were in the U.S. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Hi, I'm Kyle at Blindster.com. Blindster is a family-run business that began in 2010, and we've sold millions of custom blinds, shades, and shutters and received over 100,000 five-star reviews. Don't hire an expensive pro. Do it yourself and save big at Blindster.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Dodgers bounced back against the San Diego Padres. They held on for a 4-3 win, 2 RBIs for Shohei Ohtani. The Dodgers can clinch their 4th straight NL West Division title tonight with a win over the Padres. Week 4 of the NFL regular season kicks off tonight with the Dallas Cowboys at the New York Giants. The NFL's 6 black head coaches are a combined 10-8. That's good for a 55% winning percentage. Pittsburgh's Mike Tomlin is the only one of the black head coaches still undefeated. The Steelers are 3-0. Houston's DeMeco Ryan and Tampa Bay's Todd Bowles are 2-1. New England's Gerard Mayo, Atlanta's Raheem Morris, and Antonio Pierce of the Las Vegas Raiders are all 1-2. With Hurricane Helene bearing down on northern Florida, Florida A&M's home game Saturday against Alabama A&M was rescheduled for Friday, November 29th. The Florida A&M campus is in Tallahassee. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Sweet chocolate reward. Sweet chocolate reward.
This is not just the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat at Walgreens. This is the sound of someone picking up a sweet treat right after receiving all their vaccines in one trip. This is the sound of treating yourself, because you protected yourself.
Stop by or schedule both your flu and COVID-19 vaccines today and grab yourself a sweet treat while you're at it. Vaccine subject to availability. State, age, and health-related restrictions may apply.
Hey, can you blow up some balloons for Jack's party?
I can't. I'm so congested.
You need Sinex Saline from Vicks.
Sinex Saline Nasal Spray?
Yeah, just Sinex. Breathe.
Sinex Saline instantly clears everyday congestion associated with colds and year-round allergies with a gentle, ultra-fine mist that's no mess and easy to control.
Daddy, we need more balloons.
On it.
Enjoy life's important moments without congestion. Try Sinex Saline from Vicks. Just Sinex. Breathe. Use as directed.
Looking for a purposeful and passionate way to make a difference in your community? Volunteer with our Senior Medicare Patrol and help prevent Medicare fraud. S&P volunteers work in their community educating peers about healthcare fraud and how to prevent and detect it. Free training starts soon. Check us out online or at an S&P open house near you. We're on a mission to stop fraud. Join our team. You make a difference. Visit ca-smp-volunteer.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 believes in community empowerment through the arts. Tia Chucha Central Cultural is on a mission to transform community in the Northeast San Fernando Valley and beyond through ancestral knowledge, the arts, literacy, and creative engagement. The Northeast San Fernando Valley has a population of about 500,000, the size of the city of Oakland, yet it has no bookstores, art galleries, or full-fledged cultural spaces until Tia Chuchas opened its doors in 2001. Founded by renowned poet and activist Luis Rodriguez, Tia Chuchas Cultural Center provides a year-round free or low-cost arts and literacy bilingual intergenerational programming in mural painting, music, dance, writing, visual arts, healing art sessions, and healing talking circles. Activities also include Mexica, Aztec dance, indigenous cosmology, philosophy, and 2 weekly open mic nights, one in Spanish, the other in English. In addition, they host author readings, film screenings, and art exhibits. To express yourself, heal yourself, attend an event, or volunteer, please visit www.tiachucha.org. That's TIACHUCHA.org. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
Always night pads are designed for a perfect night's sleep, so you can do your bear hugging a pillow thing, your free falling starfish thing, your burritoed in a blanket with the AC blasting thing. While Always night pads with rapid dry do there, we've got your back with fast absorbency and up to 10 hours of protection thing. So while your period's doing its own thing, Always lets you do your sleep thing. Shop for Always in-store or online, wherever you get your pads.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate loses and love wins.
Marqueece Harris-Dawson is my guest this hour. He is the president of the Los Angeles City Council in week 1 of that job. And I wonder what, we talked about the unhoused. I wonder what you think is next in your top list of priorities. Obviously, the unhoused is...
Well, the unhoused is, we've got to keep that front and center, and I think that, the voters will do that, and the conditions on the street will do that. We'll have very quickly... One of the things about having this job is actually you don't get to set your agenda. One of the questions that I get asked a lot is, what's the difference between being an activist or being at the Community Coalition or being in the government? Is one, when you're a Community Coalition, you can, or any organization, Brother Crusade, whoever, you set your agenda. You decide the things you're going to work on.
Right.
When you come into public life, you have to work on what's front and center, whether it's your choice or not. And so, as an example, one of the next big things that's going to happen is the mayor will nominate somebody for police chief. And so that person, we're going to have to go through a process with that person. We have a very different council now who has, the range of views about policing is much wider than it's ever been on the council. And so that's going to be a pretty rigorous process, but also what's going to happen with policing going forward, right? And so I'm not of the mind that in the foreseeable future we're not going to have police. So the question is, when we have police, what do they do and what role do they play? Yesterday was a tough day in my district. As an example, we had a hijacking of an MTA bus where someone was killed. While that was happening, and this didn't make the mainstream news, on Figueroa, on that infamous track, 4 women were shot. And one
I did not know.
Right, because it couldn't make the news because of the bus thing. And so we've got to, again, this city's done a good job on the most violent crimes, homicides, sexual assault, assault and assault with a deadly weapon. The city's done a relatively good job driving that down, but it's still disturbingly high. And we still have a lot of nuisance crime. So, from the smash and grab robbery, which you might say, oh, well, stores get shoplifted all the time. But what the smash and grab robberies do is they create terror. because you watch them on your phone.
And on the news over and over.
The news replays them, and they're when you open YouTube, they're showing you a picture of it. So suddenly now, when I walk in a store, I'm jumpy, right? Like it's interfered with my peace of mind. And so and you couple that with a world where we have school shootings on a regular basis, which is just a shocking idea.
Right, but we also know that more and more police do not prevent smash and grabs nor school shootings.
Right, and so the question is, we're going to have police. What do they do?
Right.
And how do they interact with us? And how do we best leverage that asset to create safety? And I think there's across the board belief from the most conservative member to the most progressive member that police by themselves can't do it. So we know here, you didn't drive down homicides in LA mainly because you hired more police. In fact, during that time, policing actually went down. You also don't drive down homicides by passing tougher laws, because we know actually laws got less stringent. We know that what works is engagement and intervention and resources involving people closest to the problem and solving the problem. And so, we want to build that work out in the city of LA. It's one of the things I announced in my acceptance speech was that, we'll set up a committee on the council just to look at unarmed crisis response and public safety solutions. Because that really to me is the future. And then, police definitely play a role, but we can't have this notion, which I think we've had for far too long, is just say, oh, safety is all their responsibility. Mm-hmm. And we'll just,
especially when it doesn't work.
Especially when it doesn't work. We have evidence, piles and piles of evidence that doesn't work. And most importantly, they will tell you that doesn't work. The people who are actually officers will tell you like, well, yeah, no, like this, here's what I can do. And here's what I can't do. Here's what I need help with. And so I think we got to begin to build and scaffold that in the city.
I mean, I know before you became council president, you were working on measures to get cops out of simple traffic stops.
I'm still working on that as council member and council president. I've been working on it. We've had a motion that we made 4 years ago. It's, chugging along through the process. It's a big culture change. I still firmly believe that, because I crossed a double yellow line or failed to use my blinker, that I need to be confronted by a government worker with a gun. I just don't. That's fundamental. At the same time, there are some situations in which there needs to be police interaction with somebody. If somebody's, driving 90 miles an hour down Crenshaw, with hanging a gun out the window, then that's a different thing. That's not a traffic violation. That's a public safety hazard that the person's creating. So we'll continue to work on, but that's an example. So, I don't know, all of us have seen this, right? So somebody gets pulled over and there are 6 officers standing around, making this person give them documents and looking through their trunk. And meanwhile, stuff's happening in other parts of that very neighborhood that's happening in. And so I think we can do better. Certainly something we want to take up with the new chief, but also we're going to try to move policy.
You mentioned a process for the new chief. You're talking about interviewing. How does that look? I mean, if once the mayor selects someone, the city council has to approve it.
Right. The city council has to approve it. And so what's the basis of that approval? Is this somebody that people know? Is this somebody that people have a history with? Is this somebody that even understands their point of view on public safety?
Right. I mean, because if I'm an abolitionist, what chief is going to be?
Right.
Am I going to approve of?
Right.
I know we have at least one abolitionist on the council.
Well, I think even that person understands, like, okay, this, irrespective of what I feel about abolition, I have to work with the police as the council member. Like, there's no way to be a good council member and not work with the police. They're the main city employees in your district at any given time, and they're the only city employees available after 5 o'clock and on weekends. So you have to figure out how to work with them. So, who is this person? What do they bring? What's their history? What do they know about me? What do they think about me? That process has to happen in order to get the council comfortable supporting any candidate, I think.
And then if by some strange chance the council were to veto a police chief candidate, the mayor could bring it back, or the
mayor could bring it back. The mayor could bring someone else. But I think hopefully before it comes to a vote, we have we know what's going to happen. Yeah, I mean, and I think if there are things people need to work through, we set up a process that lets those things be worked through. Like I mean, I'll just be honest myself, even though I'm the facilitator of the council, if the mayor were to propose somebody who says, absolutely not, we're definitely continue to do traffic stops. In fact, we're going to do more. Well, I'm sorry, Mayor, I'm not voting for that person. We got to work something out.
Right.
Or they got to make the case for why more traffic stops going to help anybody.
They've got to bring the data right or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. You know, I hate to sound petty, but a lot of the work of the city council is kind of small stuff, you know, the quality of life stuff.
Yep.
What about these street lights? I mean, the street lights.
The street light thing is, this is one of the things I think about public safety, right? So your
Yeah.
public safety apparatus has to adjust, right? And so we spent 3 years of my time on the council trying to figure out catalytic converters.
Right.
And
Is it figured out?
Right. And no sooner than we figured it out, they moved on to copper. So now and again, it's getting figured out. I mean, this is where police actually do impressive work in terms of figuring out where copper goes, you know, standing up dummy buyers, you know, figuring out like why did people start stealing copper all of a sudden? I mean, the copper's been there the whole time. I went to a church, Dominique, in the district, and the deacon took me outside afterwards, and he says, you know, this church has been here since the 1920s. I said, okay. And he said, so we've been through segregation. We've been through 2 sets of riots. We've been through the crack cocaine epidemic. He's like, we've had church where 3 people's cars got stolen while we were in church. He's like, people have broken into church and taken the sound equipment. He said, this plaque that was right here that said when we were founded and who the pastor was, he's like, no one ever touched that in all this time. And suddenly, every church in the neighborhood, if they had a plaque on the wall that had any copper in it, it was stolen. So how does that happen out of nowhere? Because the copper's always been there. Like, it's been there the whole time.
But when you talk about public safety, a dark street is a real problem.
A dark street is a massive problem because there's public safety. We think about public safety in terms of what someone can do to you on purpose.
Right.
Like they can rob you or they can beat you up or they can assault you. But the big thing is the biggest hazard on LA streets isn't crime. It's an automobile accident.
Yeah.
That we have more people die. We have more pedestrians die from automobile accidents than we do homicides in the city of LA. And dark streets exacerbate that.
Yeah, plus you just don't feel safe when you have to walk down a dark street that you don't. I mean, can we get solar powered lights? Can we? I get that the cops are investigating, but in the meantime, how do we keep the lights on?
Well, look, the city has way too many lights. Yeah, I mean, look, the city has way too many lights to convert to solar. Like a process, right? Like a process to convert to solar is a 10-year process in the city of LA. I mean,
that's a lot of darkness for a long time.
A lot of darkness for a long time. So that's not a solution. We have to stop people from stealing copper wire. Like there's no solution that replaces that, and we have to figure out how to replace lighting faster. Because that's the other thing. Our city isn't set up to fix that many lights at a time because we've never had that situation before. So we don't even have the employees. Like the right now, I mean, we're in the process of changing it, but right now, the team that fixes lights is like, we weren't ready for this. Like this has never happened before.
Yeah.
But so that's the kind of thing of running a city, the nitty gritty, like just figuring it out.
Yeah.
Because you absolutely have to have lights. So we got some programs where, DWP can actually give businesses lighting to put on their buildings. And they'll, DWP will power it for free. That doesn't involve any copper wire. So some places where it's very dark, we'll do that. Residential streets are harder because these lights are really, really bright. So they're not appropriate for residential streets. But, this is the kind of stuff you have to, like I just said earlier, like you have to work on what's in front of you. I did not come to council to work on copper wire or street lights, but that's the work.
We're talking with Council President Marqueece Harris-Dawson on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Tips to help improve basic steps for building a budget in 2024. Building a budget can help you achieve and reach your financial goals. With a budget, you can keep track of your spending, avoid and get out of debt, limit overspending, pay bills on time, and build solid savings habits. What's the best way to get started? Figure out how much to set aside for expenses, like rent, mortgage, bills, groceries, and entertainment. Understanding your past financial habits can help you make the proper adjustments for your budget. Adjusting to a budget can take time as you work to find the right balance, but keep working on it. For more financial health tips, visit chase.com or stop by a local branch. This segment is sponsored by J.P. Morgan Chase & Company. residents, it's planting season and the perfect time to get shade trees growing around your home. LADWP and City Plants are giving every resident up to 7 free trees. That's right, 7 free trees delivered right to your door. Trees are great for the environment, help improve air quality, and can help you save on your bill when you use less air conditioning to stay cool indoors. Learn more at ladwp.com/free trees. That's ladwp.com/free trees.
Girl, I have a secret. When I get stressed out, I get sweaty. That's why I use Secret Clinical Antiperspirant. It's like my own secret weapon. For 72 hours, I get Secret's strongest protection against sweat caused by stress, heat, and activity, because you know how crazy life can get. Plus, it's made with advanced odor fighters that don't just cover up smelliness. They help prevent it from happening in the first place. Believe me, if I weren't wearing Secret, I'd be a hot, smelly mess. Thankfully, Secret works.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Talking with Councilmember Marqueece Harris-Dawson. He represents the 8th Council District in which we are currently seated at this radio station, but also now the City Council President, leader of that 15-member board, voted in with no opposition. And if this is a new era, which, I mean, technically every City Council President would be a new chapter.
Yes.
How would you like to see your chapter defined?
I think I want my chapter to be defined by doing the work and delivering results. People every day, Angelinos, being able to see a difference in their community. So we get our people off the streets and into housing. We clean up our streets. We deal with the nagging but very consequential problems like the lack of street lighting because of copper wire theft and just the basics. To the extent we can do the basics, that really is what I want to be my hallmark. I was on some station and they gotcha question. I was like, well, how are you going to get around all the scandals and the stuff that's happened on the council? And I said, well, there's only one way, and that's to do the work and to deliver for the people. If you deliver for the people, they will forgive and they will support you. If you don't, all of that stuff looms large and characterizes your role.
The LA City Council, you guys voted to strengthen the anti-harassment laws against renters.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
Well, what it means is a variety of things, but we had an anti-harassment policy before, but it basically says, well, landlords can't do this, this, and this. And what it didn't do enough of is, if you do these things, what happens to you, and how real is this law? And so what we passed earlier this week really put teeth into the anti-harassment law. So, for example, if your landlord sexually harasses you, you can do just like you would do in the workplace. You can take that person to court, and you can get damages. And the motion that we have describes the damages.
I think it was about a year ago the council passed some pretty tough laws protecting tenants.
From eviction, yes.
Yeah, from eviction. And I'm here for that. I think it's great. A huge percentage of renters are, a huge percentage of Angelinos are renters.
That's right.
And also, I've heard a lot of complaints from mom and pop renters who say it's so hard to get a person out now. If you're not a corporate landlord, you got to pay tens of thousands of dollars. And
well,
do
if
this
you're a
and do
corporate
that.
landlord, you got to pay tens of thousands of dollars.
Right, which is good.
Yeah, right.
But what if you're what's being done to protect the small mom and pop landlord in that scenario?
So one of the things I think, and I've had this discussion with we have great organizations of African Americans, but also broader than that, small landlords. And one of the things I've said to them, and I'm not sure I've been persuasive, is you got to separate yourself from the big landlords. So what happens now is we propose a law, the big landlords don't like it, and they go put them in front and say, tell them how terrible it is, right? And by that time, it's too late. I think,
in other words, using the mom and pop.
Yeah, they use the mom and pop as the face of landlords.
Right.
And it's, and then what you find out is the real people behind it own 1,800 units.
Right.
20,000 units. Like, that's not a conversation I want to have. So I do think that they need to differentiate and come up with
carve-outs.
Create carve-outs for themselves. I'm telling you, it will be very popular on the council. But short of that, it won't. Here's the other thing I would say. Most of the things that we're going through, and eviction is a good example of this, most of the laws that we're making don't apply to the small landlords anyway because they don't behave in the way the big landlords do. if you're going to throw somebody out on the street, that ought to be difficult. That ought not be easy, right? It ought to be a challenging thing for you to do. On the other hand, like I'm a big proponent of this. If I have a tenant and they're going against a corporate landlord, well, that corporate landlord has lawyers on staff that all they do is evict people.
Right.
The mom and pop may not have a lawyer. So when I say there ought to be resources for eviction defense, I mean for tenants, a single tenant facing a large corporation. A single tenant facing, a grandma or grandpa who owns a couple units, that's a different thing. Because by the time they get to, let me say it another way, the small mom and pop landlord doesn't want to go to court.
No, they don't.
Because they don't have money either.
But see, that's the thing. If you have to evict someone for cause, let's say you want to move that grandkid into that spot, now you still have to pay. Mom and pop still have to pay those relocation fees and stuff.
Right. That's
just
right.
like the big corporations.
That's right. But please be clear. That was always the law. That's not something that's new. The things that are new is you cannot. The city will not support you. You can still do an eviction. The city will not support you in eviction. That is not for something other than cause. If you're giving your apartment to a relative, well, you're getting out of the rental business. So that's a different thing entirely.
Right.
But if you are kicking someone out because you want to charge more for rent, then yeah, you're going to pay relocation fees.
Yeah, but I think those are things that we could look at in terms of supporting Black and Latino.
I totally agree, and
ownership
if you're listening, come to us with an agenda that is discreet to small landlords. I guarantee you will receive a lot of support on the council.
Great point. You are endorsing Heather Hutt.
I'm endorsing Heather Hutt
10th.
In the 10th Council District. I think it's very, very important to the city, very, very important to the 10th Council District. Heather Hutt came onto the council in such a tough way.
Yeah.
It was the whole thing with the Honorable Councilmember Ridley Thomas and everything the community went through with that. And then that short little time with Council President Wesson coming in to fill in, and then the court said, well, you can't do that. And then Heather comes into that. Council President Nuri Martinez shepherded her in, and no sooner than she's in, Nuri Martinez is in trouble. So she's had a tough go, but she's just been amazing. I can say this with confidence, and my colleagues might not like this. Heather Hutt's the only member of the council that every member of the council gets along with.
and it's an important point because it's a district with a lot of different people. I live in the district.
Right.
Got different ethnicities, different,
different kinds of neighborhood.
Yeah.
It is the most diverse district racially. That is documented. But it's also the most diverse district in terms of neighborhoods and communities. So, like St. Elmo's Village is very different from Koreatown, which is very different from Leimert Park, which is different than Baldwin Hills. Like, it's just got a lot of diversity in it, and it's requires somebody who's really good at connecting with people and connecting people.
She's the only Black woman on the council, too, I might add.
That matters.
It does. Speaking of only Black women, where are you with the presidential?
Well, with the presidential, I think there's actually not much that's more important than the presidential race. On all of the issues that we talk about and just the basic sanity and stability of the United States of America. If you come from a community where your family either came here or has lived here and you've been able to have a relatively decent life, it's up for grabs in this presidential race. And so we have one person who is sane and qualified, and we have another person who is insane and unqualified. And every day he wakes up and shows us again how he's unqualified. And so you have to defeat him because all of the craziness he's saying, he will carry out. We know that because we've seen the movie before.
Yeah.
When somebody tells you who they are, believe them the first time.
Yeah. So I'm assuming the sane person you're referring to is Kamala Harris.
Yes, I think Kamala Harris is the candidate. We got to get out there and we got to throw down for her, and throw down for ourselves. And so 1 vote here. 2, if you know anybody in Nevada or Arizona or Michigan or any of those places, call them, make sure they vote, fly out there and go vote with them if you have to. I think it's that important that we shake the grip of the crazy right wing on this country by electing Kamala Harris.
Okay, I was accused yesterday that I don't like straight heterosexual black men.
Wow, that's a
in the
rich one.
context of Kamala Harris, because
Yeah.
this misnomer or this stereotype that she's only supported by gay black men. So
That's wild. But one thing I will say about my brothers that I've noticed.
Marqueece Harris-Dawson is married, just for
Yes.
the record.
One
To
thing
a
I will
woman.
say about my brothers, and it's interesting because I hadn't made the distinction in their sexuality. It is slightly troubling the number of reasons they'll come up with to not vote for Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
That I never heard before.
Yeah.
It's like,
who hurt you, bro?
yeah, it's it's like, whoa, and most people, when you have the conversation, they come around, but it is,
And that's the important thing.
yeah, it's having the conversation.
around.
Yeah, it's we got to do that work.
Absolutely. Well, Council President Marqueece Harris-Dawson, I love saying that.
Yes.
Thank you for coming in. It's great talking with you.
Good talking to you as well. Thank you so much, Dominique, and thank you for all you've done for us over the decades. I feel like I've sat in front of microphones for years talking to you about the issues that are important to our people. So thank you, and thank you to the KBLA family.
Tavis Smiley is up next. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Officials say it's time to prepare now as Hurricane Helene is forecast to make landfall in Florida's Big Bend region later today as a Category 4 storm. Helene is expected to bring life-threatening storm surge, damaging winds and flooding to incident. Harris will visit Douglas, Arizona on Friday as polling numbers show immigration and border security are weak points in her campaign. Some